Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polar Craft Boats, the Forward Corporation, Primal Tree Stands, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, Brenton USA Hunting Rifles, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine show right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network. More than 30 stations across the great state of Michigan talking about the outdoors for 3 hours every week, as we do here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network, and I'm so glad to have you along with us. As we're in the studio right now, it is a rotten, cold, rainy day. Hopefully, by the time you hear this show, it'll be nicer. I was talking to Brad Dupuy of Angler Quest this morning as I was driving into the studio, and he says, man, Mike, he says, spring's like 3 weeks behind. And he's got a place up in northern Michigan. He said they're tapping maple trees, and he's basing it on the buds and the sap and the frost in the ground. He said, it feels like it's late this year. And it does. It does feel like it's late this year, but it's coming. And if you're in the southern part of the state, and by the time you hear the show, maybe it's already springtime. It's coming. It's coming. What is going on? A couple of things. I had a very, very rewarding experience this past week. My grandson Carter came to me and said, Grandpa, I want to shoot on the trap team, shooting team of his high school. He's a freshman. And I said, well, I think that's great, Carter. If you don't want to play baseball this spring or run track, that's wonderful. How can I help you out? Because I knew what was coming. He said, you don't happen to have a shotgun I could use for this, do you? Well, I'm not a trap or a skeet or a sporting clays guy. I respect those activities. I know they're fun. I've tried them, and it just wasn't for me. Maybe because I'm no good at it. So I don't really have a trap or a skeet or a sporting clays shotgun in the safe. But I do happen to have some different shotguns of various gauges and various configurations. So I figured we could find him something. And he said, I really want to shoot a 12 gauge. And I'm looking at him and I'm thinking, no, Carter, you don't want to shoot a 12 gauge. He's kind of a smaller guy. They're shooting 50 rounds. And I'm thinking, if you shoot a 12 gauge for 50 rounds, you're going to be pretty sore, pretty beat up, and maybe a little recoil shy, and you're not going to be concentrating on your form and hitting the bird like you would if you were shooting something else. I said, can you use 20 gauge? And he says, well, let me check. He sent off a text or an email to somebody. Yeah, we can use 20 gauge. I said, all right, let's take a look at what I got here in the safe. In the safe, I had a 12 gauge home defense gun. That ain't going to work. I had a 12 gauge pump action turkey gun. Well, that's an option if we had to. I had a beautiful old Remington 1100 Wingmaster, something that was my granddad's, that was a 20 gauge semi-auto. And I thought, okay, this is a very, very good option. And then I also had an old single shot Stevens 94H made by Savage that was the first gun that I ever owned. I got it for Christmas when I think I was 12 years old. So we pulled that one out of the safe. So we pulled the 20 gauge semi-auto and the 20 gauge single shot out of the safe. Took them downstairs on my bench, looked them both over. They needed a little bit of work. I mean, they'd been sitting there for a long time. They hadn't been shot. I bet you that single shot hadn't been shot in 40 years. They were sound. They were safe. So we go downstairs, make sure they're unloaded. Actually, I'll back up. Out in the garage, they make sure they were both unloaded. Carter shouldered them both, and he said, I really like this semi-auto. He said, but it feels too big, too long. And I agreed. It didn't fit him very well. Anyway, we take them both downstairs to my bench and started working on cleaning them up. And the more I thought about this, the more Carter looked at this, we started to focus in on this single shot 20 gauge for many reasons. Number one, again, I didn't think he wanted to shoot a 12. I thought it would be too much for him, so a 20 is perfect. That single shot, because they're not shooting multiple rounds anyway, multiple shells, they're loading one at a time, so I didn't have to worry about that. A single shot is such a safe gun. When you break it open, it's obvious to everybody around you that the gun is unloaded and it's open and it's safe. Along the safety line, you got to pull the hammer back before you can shoot the gun. I said, Carter, so the hammer is your safety. You don't pull the hammer back until the gun is shouldered and you're ready to shoot. Took it apart. Thank goodness there's not much to taking apart an old single shot 20 gauge. Took it all apart. Got some solvent in there. Got some some hoppies in there. Got everything working very smoothly. It was just perfect. He said, Grandpa, I think that's the gun I want to try. And I'm thinking, well, good, because I think that's the best gun. We took it out to my buddy's farm, Cookie's farm, next to the house there. And I had him just shoulder it and shoot a couple rounds to see what it felt like. Okay, no problem. Everything's fine. Everything's safe. Everything's comfortable. I had an old basketball, an old soccer ball in the garage, and threw them across the ground in front of Carter. Okay, here's get a feel for shooting at a moving target. That went well. Then I stood behind him and threw the balls up in the air away from us. Okay, now get a feel for what something feels like as it's flying through the air, Carter. And it took him a while to get the hang of it, of course, as it would, something you've never done before. But he really enjoyed it. But I tell you what, I think I enjoyed it more than he did. The thought of having my grandson shooting a gun that I shot as a kid, that my parents gave me for Christmas when I was a kid, was so rewarding to me. Now, Grandpa said, Carter says, he acknowledged that it was cool. Grandpa, I think it's cool that I'm shooting a gun that you did as a kid. So he gets that part of it, but he didn't internalize it like I did because, I'm always talking about the history and tradition of the outdoors here on this show. And for me, this was a personal example of the tradition of the outdoor lifestyle. To have my grandson now shooting my first gun, to me is so rewarding and so cool that I just can't even tell you. So we'll see how he does. But if he enjoys it half as much as I'm enjoying watching him shoot, it's going to be a wonderful experience. And isn't this why we do this outdoors, hunting and fishing and shooting and trapping? Not only so we can enjoy it ourselves, but so we can pass it along to the generations. Maybe Carter will end up with that gun permanently. And if so, when I'm gone, every time he picks it up, he can say, this is my grandpa's gun. We're not talking about using it for turkey hunting, although I'm open to that. Speaking of turkey season, by the way, welcome to the month of April. What happens in April? In my world, it's turkey season. The folks at Primal Tree Stands are giving away a guided, all-inclusive turkey hunt in northern Michigan during the May season, the mosquito season, with Charlie Wiltsey, Northern Michigan Turkey Hunting Guide. All-inclusive hunt with one guest. That's first prize. Second prize is one of those Breeze blinds. That's the blind I shot my Ontario bear out of last August. Third place, 2 Descender safety devices along with a Primal Protector harness. Go to the website, primaltreestands.com. Primaltreestands.com. On the front page, the home page, there is a banner that you can click on to enter the contest. You can only enter once. It runs through April 7th at 7 p.m. On Friday the 8th at noon, these are all Eastern time, they will draw the winner, and I will help announce that as well. That's the May 7th through the 31st season. You'll be hunting with Charlie Wilsey. Go to primaltreestands.com, primaltreestands.com. On the homepage, click on the banner to enter that contest. While you're there, if you want to do some shopping, use the promo code Avery and get deep discounts on anything on the website, including that Wraith 270 see-through ground blind that I love so much. What else? Walleye for Warriors event is still looking for boat captains for the Walleye for Warriors outing on Saginaw Bay this summer, June 11th and 12th. It's a win-win. You want to go walleye fishing on the bay, plus we want to honor our veterans. They will have a great time as well. Go to the website, walleyesforwarriors.org, walleyesforwarriors.org. Sign up to be a boat captain. You don't have to be a licensed charter captain to be a boat captain for this event. I have already signed up. Looking forward to that. Coming up after the break here on the Outdoor Magazine Show, I want to introduce you to a new advertising partner, a new friend of mine. His name is Mike King of Michigan-made Brenton USA Hunting Rifles. Very excited to be working with these folks. Then Tom Campbell of Woods-n-Waternews. In hour number 2, we're talking Michigan morels. It's getting to be that time of year with Clay Edney. Gary Whelan of the DNR checks in about fish kills. If you see one, don't get too excited. It might be just Mother Nature doing her thing. And in hour number 3, we're talking about knives. Hunting knives, fillet knives, pocket knives, carry knives with Kris Derson of Michigan-based Rapid River Knife Works. And, of course, wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Minar will be along with us to wrap it all up. That's coming up this week right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show on more than 30 stations across the great state of Michigan. They include WZTK in Alpena, that's 105.7 FM. How about WTCM in Traverse City, 580 AM? And let's go north of the bridge. Let's go to Newberry, WNBY, 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by VersaSkins. Just change your skin for the season you're in. Michigan-based, family-owned VersaSkins. You know I love that combination. Paul Perrone has come up with a great concept. He makes high-quality hunting clothes, but you can snap on and zip on a different outer shell to change the from fall camo to spring camo to blaze orange to snow camo, whatever you need. Check them out online at versaskins.com. That's versaskins.com, and give them a try. Also, while you're online, head on over to my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com, MikeAveryOutdoors.com, and then jump over to BrentonUSA.com, BRENTON, BrentonUSA.com, a new advertising partner of mine, and I'm very, very excited to let you know more about this company. You know, I made no mistake. I love to work with family-owned, Michigan-based companies that make good products, and Brenton is in that wheelhouse. Mike King is the owner of Brenton, and he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Mike, welcome to the show, and welcome to the Outdoor Magazine family.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Listen, a real pleasure. I really enjoyed meeting with you and John Cedar, your marketing director, here a couple of weeks ago to learn more about Brenton, but I want to learn more about you too. Tell me your background. You're a Michigan guy. Did you grow up hunting and fishing, Mike?
I did. Like many youth in the state, stick and string as a young kid. Grew up in a hunting family in the cornfields of Southwest Michigan, and really spent most of my childhood chasing after deer and small game. And educated. I'm a Ferris Bulldog, mechanical and plastics engineer. Worked in the automotive space coming out of college after a small career in the NFL. Really cut my teeth in manufacturing. Just really in love with, how things work. Own a few businesses associated with manufacturing engineering, and really enjoy both areas. And whether it's hunting or fixing challenging engineering problems, it's something that I enjoy doing both.
Why Brenton? How did you end up at the helm of this Michigan-based AR hunting style rifle company?
Yeah, so in late 2019, or I guess it was early 2020, kind of pre-pandemic, I was headed to an SCI event in Lansing, and Bart Brenton, the founder of the business, and I were fortunate to cross paths. Bart, being the wizard of this fine rifle, and the technology that's gone into it, and my background really in manufacturing and in the technical space as well as the business space, was a good marriage. Bart, the things he does well to build a good product and to design and continue to advance a good product, and what I do to bring things to commercialize and bring things together. We really hit it off, and have been in a mode of growth and really rebranding and reinventing this company ever since. Why
use an AR style rifle for hunting? I mean, we've got single shots, we've got bolt actions, we've got semi-autos, we've got lever actions, and all of those have worked very well for Michigan hunters over the years. Why change our mindset, Mike, to look at the AR?
Yeah, so a rifle that combines all the great things that you just mentioned in your, we'll call them your childhoods or your grandfather's or your father's guns. The AR platform really brings all of the great things that are on those platforms together. It combines all those, and it gives you what we consider the ultimate hunting package. It gives you flexibility to go between different game with different chambers. It's a package that doesn't force you to sacrifice accuracy, dependability, and time, frankly, when you're hunting. And it really, we believe that it offers you, something that, each one of those weapons you mentioned, whether it be a lever action, a break action shotgun, a pump, or a bolt action rifle. We all own those. We love those weapons. We hunt with those weapons, but we really feel like this platform, the way we've modernized it for the hunting segment only, gives you something that all those platforms combined offer.
Mike, I've got a couple of AR rifles in my safe right now. I look at those from a certain perspective. I look at those as a target gun, self-defense, home defense. God forbid we ever get to that situation, and I pray we don't. Sure. But when I met with you guys and picked up your Brenton AR-style hunting rifles, it was a whole different feel. I looked at it, and I'm like, okay, that's an AR, but it didn't feel like the guns that I already have.
Yeah, no, it's something that, I'm glad to hear you say it. We've purposely taken the militarization or the combat style rifle, and we left it in its lane, and we've really tried to decombat these weapons and still enjoy the flexibility the AR platform offers. And so we've purposely changed what you would see in a normal home defense weapon, for instance, and we've really focused on what would a hunter want. What kind of feel would a hunter want? And so when you grab the handguard of our rifle, it feels like you're holding your grandfather's bolt action. When you pull the trigger on our rifle, you get the immediate break and accuracy you get with a target rifle. The length of pull, the feel, the real feel of our rifle is really meant to give you all of the luxuries that you would get in a hunting weapon with the flexibility, the accuracy, and the reliability you get with a combat weapon. And so we've taken the forward assist out. We've tightened up all the tolerancing in the gun. These aren't meant to be on the beach in Normandy taking water and sand, although hunting elements do offer a challenge. We've tightened these tolerances up, which really let you have a weapon that is not only accurate sub-minute of angle, it's repeatable. It's something that allows you to go between each chamber, which is something that a combat weapon doesn't really allow you to do. By the way, you can do that in 30 seconds, Mike.
Well, and I appreciate you bringing that up, and that's one of the things we'll talk about here in the future. But looking at this from the outside, Mike, I see you got a couple challenges. Number one is you've got to get people to know the name, Brenton USA, a Michigan-based manufacturer of highly accurate AR-style hunting rifles. You got to get that word out. But secondly, then, you've got to try to convince hunters that the AR is a viable platform to do this. So that those are challenges, correct?
They absolutely are, and it's if it ain't rough, it ain't right, I guess. But we're in a spot where we're passionate about it. Every hunter we put this, Mike, you're an example of it. Every hunter we hand this weapon loves this weapon, and they buy it. Once you touch this gun, you want it. You understand what we're doing. We know we're in a white space that doesn't really exist. We're not trying to be a defense weapon. We're trying to be solely a hunting weapon, which is different than a lot of folks out there. And absolutely getting our name out there, understanding that we're not a Me Too, that's critical for us. And then all the things that go with that. The number of chambers we offer. You mentioned we're a U.S. manufactured, but we're also 100% Michigan based. We build these rifles right here in Lansing, Michigan.
There are other gun companies that are trying to market their ARs as hunting rifles, though, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of combat black gun, weapon producers that they as a pivot do try to take a tactical weapon. And they'll launch a unicorn caliber to the hunting space. Taking a combat weapon and making it a hunting weapon, which is, there's been a lot of success, and it's one of the things that interested us and really forced us to do what we're doing. Is, what if it was just a hunting weapon designed for a hunter instead of a reapplying of a combat tolerance weapon?
I got you. You can look at it from a couple of perspectives. Some of the other companies are saying, okay, we make an AR, let's market it to the hunters. But you guys at Brenton have said, no, let's make a hunting gun that just happens to be on the AR platform.
That's right. Designed and developed by hunters. Absolutely.
You mentioned those different chambers. You've kind of got it across the board, don't you, Mike?
We do. We offer 11 caliber or chambers today. And Bart's a wizard. He's, every day we're coming up with new things. So, I wouldn't be surprised if we were at 13 before the end of the year.
Now, listen, I said caliber. I said, I normally think in terms of caliber, yet your website said chambers. That's why I use the term chamber. Is it interchangeable? Is the term interchangeable?
A caliber's the size of the bullet. The chamber is the gun. So they are interchangeable. But we have everything from a 204 all the way up to your 450 Bushmaster. We have both the straight wall cartridges, which here in the Midwest and in Michigan, shotgun zone, those two chambers are great replacements and alternatives to the shotgun. And then we have everything from a 204 Ruger all the way up to a 300 Blackout, or we just launched the 300 Hammer. We have the ever popular 6mm ARC, the 224 Valkyrie, the 22 Nosler, 6.8 SPC, 6.5 Grendel, 224 Valkyrie. I mean, you can see that we have kind of a portfolio of chambers that allow you to hunt everything from hogs in Texas and Florida to whitetails, elk, and I was lucky enough to harvest a moose in Montana this year with my 450.
Mike, hang tight. Listen, I got to take a break. We're talking to Mike King, Brenton USA Hunting Rifles, BrentonUSA.com, manufactured in Lansing, BrentonUSA.com. A lot more questions for Mike, but we got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. BrentonUSA.com. More with Mike King coming up after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in St. Joe on WSJM 94.9 FM. You can hear us in Battle Creek on WBCK 95.3 FM. And north of the bridge, let's go to Marquette, WDMJ 1320 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by MUCC's On the Ground program. OTG is a program to improve habitat for fish and wildlife across the state. For details, check out the Michigan United Conservation Club's website, MUCC.org. That's MUCC.org. While you're there, if you have not signed up to be an MUCC member yet, use the promo code MIKE, all caps MIKE, and save 25% on your MUCC membership. We're talking now with Mike King of Brenton USA, BrentonUSA.com. They're a Michigan-based manufacturer of highly accurate AR-style hunting rifles. And, Mike, I got to believe here in Michigan that the 350 and the 450 have to be two of your more popular calibers.
Absolutely. Yep.
But you mentioned also, though, that you've taken what? You've taken a moose. You're going to go on a grizzly hunt this fall with him?
Yeah, so I'll be in Alaska with my 450 on a coastal brown bear hunt. I was fortunate to harvest a Shiras moose in Montana with my 450 last fall, and so very capable of big game caliber. We've fallen in love with here, and the 350 Legend is right there with it.
I love guns. I love everything about guns. I own a lot of guns, but I have to admit, when it comes to hunting, I'm primarily a bow hunter. But after holding one of your Brenton USA hunting rifles in my hands, it really piqued my curiosity. And I feel like this fall I want to spend some time in the woods with one of your rifles on my shoulder. And you say that's not an uncommon feeling for people.
It's not. Once the there is a stigma that's with the AR platform being a combat gun, but once a hunter picks up one of our rifles, it's tough to want to put it down. We've done everything to try to accommodate a hunter's needs, everything from the weight of the rifle, how it feels, all the way out to the game specific chambers. This is a great backpack gun. It's a great carry gun. It's a great tool to use while hunting. It's everything about it is built around a hunter's needs.
An AR wouldn't normally be thought of as a highly accurate style rifle, but you guys are you're changing that as well.
Yeah, we've our material selections, our coatings. Just everything about our marble coat on the outside of the rifle. There's our patented innovation. So we've got some things we've done to improve the marriage between the upper and the lower, which is what drives the accuracy in our rifles. And to be able to plug and play new chambers quickly without having to recite the weapon in. Is something that we take a lot of pride in. Is that it's such a tight tolerance weapon that it gives the hunter the confidence that they can go between a moose hunt, for instance, like I was in Montana, to I was very quickly coyote and prairie dog hunting with a quick pull of 2 pins. And the reason I could do that is because we've designed the gun and really focused on how to keep that accuracy and that dependability a no-brainer for the hunter, and to do it quickly.
Well, Mike, as I told you when we met, I'm fascinated by the concept. I'm very interested in the platform, but the fact that you guys are a Michigan-based company really gets me excited. I'm glad to be working with you. And what I'd like to do here is, sometime here in the near future, do a Wednesday night live, maybe come down to the factory in Lansing, or maybe we wait a few more weeks until it gets nice out, warmer out, and we go to the range and do a Wednesday night live from the range some night to show people what you guys are all about.
We welcome that. We think that'd be great. And whether we do it at the shop or we do it, out on the range, I think that would be amazing.
Well, in the meantime, people can go to the website BrentonUSA.com, BrentonUSA.com, to learn more about what you guys have to offer. And Mike, I'm really excited to be working with you. I think you're a great company. You're Michigan-based, and you make a great product, so it's a win-win all the way around.
We're excited too, Mike. Thanks for having us.
Mike King of Brenton USA, BrentonUSA.com, BrentonUSA.com. I would suggest you go to that website and see more what it is we're talking about. You probably have an AR in your safe. I've got a couple of them. I've played around with them on the range. I'm like I said, I've had an interest in them, but I've never really thought of them much as a hunting rifle until I met with the guys at Brenton USA, and it takes this concept to a whole different level. And I don't know. I'm thinking that maybe a 350. If I got one of these in a 350, I could deer hunt with it, but maybe use it for some other things as well. But that's the beauty of an AR, right? If you decide you want to get that platform and go predator hunting with it, you can. You can get a different upper, and you can go big game hunting with it. So I'm excited to see where this all goes, and I wish these folks at Brenton nothing but luck. BrentonUSA.com, BrentonUSA.com. We'll take a break here on the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, Tom Campbell of Woods-n-Waternews is going to check in. We haven't talked with Tom for a while yet. And coming up in hour number 2, since this is April now, we'll welcome you to the month of April, talking with Clay Edney of Michigan Morels. Where do you find these things? It seems like springtime is coming late this year, but they're out there, and they will be. Then Gary Whelan of the DNR, this week's Ask Avery segment. And coming up in hour number 3, Kris Derson of Rapid River Knife Works in the UP, talking about knives. Is there a more versatile tool in the outdoors than a knife? I don't think so. I got one in my pocket right now. And, of course, Wild Game Chef Dave Minar will wrap it all up. That's coming up this week right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Caro on WKYO 1360 AM and WIDL 92.1 FM. You can hear us in Lansing on WILS 1320 AM and north of the bridge in the Sioux on News Talk 1400 WKNW. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Rapid River Knives. I've got a Rapid River knife in my pocket right now. Beautiful, handmade, very functional pieces of art that are designed to be used and passed down for generations. In fact, Kris Derson of Rapid River Knives will be with us in hour 3 of this week's show coming up here. In about a little over a couple hours from now. Their website, RapidRiverKnifeWorks.com, RapidRiverKnifeWorks.com. Make sure you stop by their showroom in Rapid River, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Tom Campbell of Woods-n-Waternews. I think Michigan is blessed with a long tradition of top-quality outdoor publications, top-quality outdoor writers, and in my mind, Woods-n-Waternews is a leader. Well, I'm going to come out and say it. I think they are the best outdoor publication in Michigan, and Tom Campbell is one of the reasons for that, and he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Tom, welcome back.
Hey, thanks, Mike. Thanks for those kind words. That's fantastic. I think that's all there is to say.
All right. Well, listen, good talking to you. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Can't beat that. That's wonderful. Thank you, Mike. We appreciate it.
And it's no disrespect to any of the other publications, but, man, you guys got the history and tradition and the track record.
Yeah,
you've been around for a long time, and you've proven you've got the chops.
You got it, Mike. Yep, absolutely. 35 plus years, 36, 37 years. I can't even count them anymore.
Well, you started when you were 14 years old.
That's exactly right. We wish.
So listen, we're as folks are hearing the show now, we're in the month of April.
Right.
The consumer season, the show season is behind you. As you look back, how was it? I mean, it was nice to get out there and see people, but how were the crowds?
Exactly right, Mike. It was great, and the crowds were great for us. We couldn't have been happier. We talked to a lot of people, found more big bucks, of course, more great stories, and sold a lot of subscriptions. So we were really happy. Sometimes numbers get you confused. Quality is sometimes better, and I can tell you for sure, all the shows had quality people there that that really hunt and fish and love the outdoors, and we're our kind of people. So it worked out real nice for us, for sure.
Excellent. That's glad to hear. Tom, do you ever, when you're working these shows, when you're on your feet for hours, I mean, I know you love to talk with subscribers. I know you love to talk with the Michigan outdoorsmen and women, but do you ever get sick of hearing about the stories?
No. Mike,
see, you have to answer. No. See, I know. No, Mike, I never get tired of those stories.
It's always unique. So, it's fantastic. It's, they're also innocent too. It's not like they're trying to sell you something or push something on you, and a lot of them, they go, well, they're kind of shy about it sometimes too. Yeah, I took, and they'll get the phone out and I go, oh my God,
wow,
wonderful. And then their eyes kind of perk up and brighten up. So, 99% of them are all wonderful about it, and they'll go around, trying to get something out of it or so that part of it makes it enjoyable for sure. And you think you'd hear them all after these 30-some years, but it's always great to hear more and see more. And in fact, our April issue, which is out on the newsstand, I think has one of the coolest bucks I've seen in a long time, and that's that non-typical that was taken by a young man, 21-year-old, in Berrien County. That's going to be like the top, maybe the state's third biggest non-typical taken with a black powder. It's just really unique, and it's in that April issue for sure. In his story too, Richard Smith did that for us, and that's fantastic. And
well,
we always love hearing those.
Deer stories have gotten to be a year-round activity,
absolutely.
But when we're talking April, I know there's more than just deer in the April issue.
You got it. You got it, Mike. That covers a big old strutting tom, and we love our turkey hunting here in Michigan as well. And we've got some great stories and tactics and techniques and tips. And I'll give you a tip of all the 3 or 4 or 5 stories on turkey hunting in our April issue. Probably the number one thing that's mentioned on every story is how important scouting for spring turkeys is. So I can throw that out to your listeners. But there's always great tips on calls and methods. And there's a little bit of difference. Kenny Darwin did one on hunting farmland turkeys, agriculture areas, a little different than hunting big wood turkeys. And he did a great job of giving tips and techniques on that as well. And of course, that doesn't touch all the fishing stories we have that are just fantastic. Mark Romanek fills our pages with great stuff. And then the walleyes in the April issue, if you are a walleye fisherman, you must pick up this copy because we have so many great stories on walleye fishing. And the tactics that they use in the Detroit River at this time of the year can be used in other places too. And in fact, Mark did a great piece on the big 3 walleye rivers, of course, Detroit, St. Clair and the Saginaw. So you can't, it's tips for all those, and it's just a fantastic piece of if you're into walleye fishing or if you want to get into walleye fishing.
Well, hunting, fishing, shooting, trapping, conservation issues, wildlife issues, wild game cooking. It feels like I'm talking about the Outdoor Magazine radio show, but I'm talking about Woods-n-Waternews, woods-n-waternews.com. You can check them out online or at your local convenience store, party store, or get a subscription, woods-n-waternews.com. Thank you, Tom Campbell. We'll take a break for the top of the hour. When we come back, we're talking Morel Mushrooms with Clay Edney.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polar Craft Boats, the Forward Corporation, Primal Tree Stands, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, Brenton USA Hunting Rifles, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction. A new intro. I haven't heard that one before this week. How in the world 4 decades? How can I possibly be? How can that be? I'm only 35 years old. How can that possibly be? Yeah, 4 decades. But I consider it a blessing to sit at this microphone every weekend and talk about the outdoors, the history and tradition of the outdoors, all aspects of the outdoors. And by the way, this is the Outdoor Magazine radio show. First and foremost, an outdoor radio show heard on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan. And I say that because I want you, if you can, to listen to the radio show on your local radio station. You get your local news and weather and sports, and the broadcast stations get the content of the show before the podcast is uploaded. So that's, it is a radio show. But isn't it nice to know that there is a podcast version of the show if your local station doesn't carry all 3 hours of the show, or if you live in some part of our state not covered by that broadcast signal? You can hear the podcast on my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com, on my Facebook page, all of the other. Literally, I can't think of a podcast outlet that doesn't carry my podcast. Amazon, Audible, LinkedIn, iTunes, Google Play, iHeart, SoundCloud, Spotify, the whole gamut. Even on YouTube. Yeah, I put a podcast version up on YouTube, and people watch/listen to it every week. So whatever option works best for you. Also need to plug the Outdoor Magazine Podcast Network. I do monthly podcasts for Offshore Tackle, Angler Quest Pontoons, Primal Tree Stands, and Polar Craft Boats as well. And again, regardless of when or where or how you are listening to my voice, I appreciate it so very much. I wouldn't be able to do this for more than 4 decades if I didn't have your support and your listenership. And again, thank you very much. So this is the month of April. Welcome to the month of April. April showers bring May flowers. It also brings turkey season. It also brings steelhead fishing. It also brings sucker fishing. It also brings smelt runs. It brings night crawlers coming up. It's the trout season open up later in the month. The walleye season open back up later in the month. It's next to October. Is there a better month of the year than April? I don't know. One thing that April brings as well, Morel Mushrooms. Man, people get excited about morels. If you've got a morel hotspot, you guard that. You don't tell anybody about it. You might put it in your will and pass it down to the next generation. But you certainly don't go on social media and blab about it, or do you? And if you go on social media to talk about morels, you've got to be going to the Michigan Morel Facebook page, facebook.com/Michigan Morels. The brainchild of Clay Edney, Michigan's Morel Master, and he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Hey, Clay, welcome back. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me back on again.
Oh, listen, it's always a pleasure because when you and I talk, it's about springtime and morels. And listen, as we are recording the show, I feel like it's a late spring, but has anybody seen any morels yet?
No, there hasn't been anything reported in Michigan yet. Last year it was March 23rd, and then I think everything's a couple weeks late here right now.
Yeah, I think we're a couple of weeks late too, and we're recording a little bit early, but it's going to happen here. It's just around the corner. Things are getting ready, depending on where you live in the state. Things are getting ready to bust wide open.
Yeah, it's getting ready to happen. I was looking at the 10-day forecast right now, and I don't think nothing's going to happen yet this week. We're still looking into maybe like the first week of April into the second week this year.
Well, and obviously it's going to happen in the southern part of the state and work its way north.
Yep, every year.
How many years have you been doing this, Clay?
I think I had some friends start me out. I was probably, early 20s. They used to take me up to turkey camp, and you could only hunt till noon back then.
I remember
and then
that,
after noon, we get done turkey hunting, we'd go mushroom hunting. And that's how I learned to do it.
Well, several questions for you. Number one, what's the appeal? Even people who don't like morels sometimes are fascinated by the search.
Yeah, a lot of people just like getting out in the woods. I mean, you can't beat that.
Yeah.
But it's all about getting that nice plate of morels and eat them up. They're the best tasting mushrooms you can eat.
So what's the key? How do we find them? Where do we find them?
Yeah, first is morel mushrooms. It's all about the trees. You have to look for certain trees in the area. First, the ones that come up are the black ones that you'll start seeing first, and they grow around the popple, the tulip, which is a hardwood, your burn sites, cherry, ash, and you get in there and find the black ones.
So how many different kinds of morels are there in Michigan, Clay?
There's the blacks. Now it's kind of controversy. The grays, I call them grays. The first time when they grow, they're gray because it's still a cooler weather, and then they will eventually turn to yellow, but they're a little bit more meatier, different texture, and then you'll get the yellows and whites, which people call them.
And those are all, if they're a morel, they're safe for most people to eat.
Yep. Sometimes some people are allergic to morels.
Would you, and you and I are both going to put out a caveat here. Look at that. We're not telling you to go out and eat morels. Find out if you're allergic to them. Find out if your system can handle them. All mushrooms, even including morels, which most people can eat. But if you tried a morel for the first time and you were allergic to it, would that show up right away? Would that be obvious?
Yes. Oh yeah. You get the stomach ache, vomiting. A lot of times what happens is people eat the black ones, which has more toxic in it, and then they get allergic reaction to that. Then they know right away. And then the white ones are not so much. So some people can't eat the black ones, can eat the yellow ones, or they just can't eat them all.
And I've heard about people who eat these things all their life, and then all of a sudden, boom, they have a problem.
Yep. Yeah, I've heard that before too.
So with that in mind, they're tasty, they're wonderful, they're a fun prize, and they're great on the table. I'll go back again. You mentioned all about the trees. Tell me more about that. I'm not quite sure I get that, Clay.
Okay, when you go into an area, like, there's all kinds of state land, federal land, county parks. You got to find a certain area. The black ones, which are the cold morels, you start looking for the popple stands, or you'll start walking through the woods and find a cherry mixed with popple, ash. You have to learn to identify your trees. And then for the grays, I find them in the white pine, the popple. Then the yellows or whites, you got to go look for dead elm, dying elm, ash, old apple orchards. That's where you're going to find your mushrooms.
So do you find them, at the base of these trees or around these dead trees, or just in the same area that the trees are?
So, yeah, sometimes, I have found them like right up against a tree, but in that area, and you'll go into a big area, and there might be only a section where 20 feet circle, they only grow in that area for some reason.
And will they grow in that same spot year after year?
Okay, the black ones will grow every year. I've noticed in the last 30 years, they'll grow in the same area, around the same trees. And then the yellows and whites, what happens is the elms will start dying. They'll start losing their bark. Eventually they'll fall over, and they'll kind of just, deteriorate. And then they'll stop producing morels in that area.
And these areas, you say they change and they'll evolve over the years. But man, a good morel spot or a good mushroom spot, that's worth its weight in gold. People, the outdoors, the woods, public land is open to everybody. But man, people hide these spots as much as they can, don't they?
Oh yeah. I'll get to the point where I'll park in different spots, walk in a different way, go a different direction, park down the road. But just for all that public land, somebody knows your spot. Yeah. You're just a matter if you're getting there first or not.
Well, yeah, and unless it's on your property, it's not your spot. Somebody else has likely picked that spot over the years and maybe for generations.
Exactly.
Yeah. So is there I don't want to say a hierarchy. Is there a code? Is there a creed among mushroom hunters? Like if you get out in the woods and somebody's on a spot, you just back out of it and get away. It's theirs for that day.
Yeah, you try to do that. Be nice about it. There's enough woods out there for everybody to kind of wander around.
Yeah, well, hopefully. We're talking to Clay Edney. Yeah, Clay Edney. I call him Michigan's Morel Master. go to his website, his Facebook page. It's facebook.com/Michigan Morels. That is the place to keep an eye on what's happening as the morel season, as the mushroom season develops. Clay's got a lot of advice and tips. Listen, Clay, I've got to take a break here. Can you stick around for a few more minutes?
Yes, sir.
Excellent.
Yes, sir.
Michigan's Morel Master, Clay Edney, the Facebook page, facebook.com/Michigan Morels. If you go there, and I love what Clay says. He says, look at, this is social media. You can say anything you want, but he says on his Facebook page, if you can't say something nice, then don't say anything and don't get on the page. That's kind of the same way I look at my Facebook page. There's no reason for negativity, no reason to bash other people, no reason to say negative, nasty things. There's enough nastiness in the world. We don't need it in our outdoor world as well, do we? Facebook.com/Michigan Morels. Michigan's Morel Master, Clay Edney. More coming up after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Sheboygan on Big Country Gold, WCBY, AM and FM, 1240 AM, 100.7 FM. You can hear us in Flint on Sports Extra 1330 WTRX. And let's go north of the bridge. Let's go to Iron Mountain, WMIQ 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by the Linwood Beach Marina and Campground. Linwood Beach can be your year-round Saginaw Bay fishing destination and your mid-Michigan tracker and angler quest, and Mercury headquarters as well. Check them out online at linwoodbeachmarina.com. That's linwoodbeachmarina.com. Love working with the folks at Linwood Beach. They do a great job. Great people, great resources, great facility, great location, great information. What more could you ask? Check out the website, linwoodbeachmarina.com. And stay in touch with the folks there. We're staying in touch right now with Clay Edney, Michigan's Morel Master. He's the guy behind Facebook.com/Michigan Morels. So Michigan Morels on Facebook. If you're on Facebook, everybody is. Check out the Facebook page, Michigan Morels. Clay, before the break, you were talking about, general areas where to find morels. But let's be more specific. Once you get into an area where there are morels, how do you find them? I'm one of those people who can walk through an area and not see them, and somebody will come along behind me and go, there's one, there's a bunch of them. I can't believe, Avery, you missed them all. What's the secret?
You just got to focus, and just look and start focusing. Once you find one, you should be able to turn around, start looking and see all the ones that you missed.
Do you get down at their level? Do you kneel down? Do you try to put the sun behind you? Use binoculars? I don't know. Help me out.
Well, you walk up to the area. For me, I know the areas, but if I'm looking for a new area, I'll kind of just lean down, look, move, look behind you, look up a hill. You kind of get different angles. You maybe get down on your knees and kind of look ahead of you and see if you can see something sticking up.
And then once you go through an area and you pick it, will that spot then produce more later in the season?
Oh, yeah. They'll keep growing. The black morels will grow for about 2 weeks in the same area.
So then how often will you, Clay Edney, Michigan's Morel Master, how often will you hit a spot?
Usually I rotate spots 2 days.
2 days?
2 days.
And if we get a nice warm rain, does that help things out? Or you get to a certain time of year, they're going to grow anyway?
Right, that's what you need. Right now we're just waiting for some 60 degrees during the day, 40 at night. We've had a couple of them days now, but just not enough in a row. I think we need one good warm night. We got the rain now, and then the black ones will start popping. And then as the season goes on, it gets warmer, which brings the yellow ones up because they like the warmer weather.
Once a morel pops up, if somebody doesn't pick it, is it going to stay there and be okay for a couple of days, or is it going to go to seed and shrivel up and get mushy? What's our window of opportunity here, Clay?
Probably about 2 weeks.
Oh, really?
If we get a lot of rain, what'll happen with some of the bigger morels is they'll actually start mushing up if you don't get them. If we get a lot of rain at one time, they'll mush, but usually they'll stay good for 2 weeks.
And how do you tell a true morel? There's a pretty simple litmus test, isn't there?
Yeah, you cut them in half, and they're completely hollow, and they're all attached to one piece, solid. And then a false morel, which a true false morel is called a beefsteak, which don't even look like a morel.
No.
It's red, dark brown top. And then you will have the verpa, which is, it'll look like, just like a morel. The top will actually be sitting right on top of the stem. It'll look like an umbrella. And then if you cut it in half, you'll have cotton, like a cotton fiber inside the stem. And then that's the other one.
And then how do you cook them up? How do you like them?
I cut them in half, check for bugs. I'll put them in a frying pan with butter, and then I'll slowly start cooking them, and you watch the water start coming out of it, and just like let it slowly just work the water out of it, because the mushroom's 60% water, and then until you see the water start coming all the way out, then just shut it off and it's done.
Can you freeze them? Can you salt them? Can you dry them down? Can you save them? Or do you eat them right now when they're good and fresh?
Well, you eat them when they're fresh, of course, but if you got so many that you can't take care of them or eat them up that fast, a lot of people will dry them out. They do it with the fish line, dry them, and then put them in the cans. And then what I do is I do the same process. I start cooking them, and I cook them halfway, turn it off, let it cool down, get a freezer bag, pour everything into the freezer bag, liquid and all, seal it, lay it flat, let it freeze, and then when you get done or get ready to eat it, unthaw it, pour it right back into the frying pan, and then finish doing the water out of it. And they taste just as fresh as they did the day you picked them.
Oh, no kidding. When you were talking about fishing line, or I guess a string too, a needle, what do you slice them up, or you leave them whole and just?
No, leave them whole.
Okay.
Leave them whole. Put them right through the line and let them dry. A lot of people will put screens out and dry them on screens so the air hits both sides.
Yeah. I hear stories about, there's certain ways. There's the right way to transport them, the right way to carry them. You should never carry them in a plastic bag. It's got to be an onion sack or some kind of a mesh bag, yada, yada. What's the truth on that, Clay?
Hey, I was thinking about that this morning. You were going to ask this question.
Of course I am.
I got on a format this morning, and 110 comments on it about the mesh bag. Now, it's, some people say it's good, some people say it's bad. This is my opinion, and I know people won't agree with it. A mesh bag is like a cheese grater. Like, if you put a bunch of morels into the onion bag and you're going through the woods and, fill it up and you're grinding the morels all day long as you walk through the woods, and what you're doing is just tearing them up. A lot of people say that it lets the spores out, which you picked areas for 20 years and they come back in the same spot. So it's already got the mycelium in the ground, which grows the morels. I mean, yeah, it does help. If you're worried about morels not coming back next year, leave some there to let them die into the ground again. I mean, if I go out, plastic bags are bad for the environment. We all understand that. I carry a plastic bag or a hat, whatever I got, paper bag. And then once you bring them home, leave it open so the moisture gets out.
So you're saying Mother Nature doesn't need us to produce morels. She's doing just fine on her own.
Right. It's all about the trees. The trees are doing something in the ground to make these morels. An elm dies, and all of a sudden there's morels growing there. They never grew there before when it was alive. It has something to do with the trees in the ground.
You used a word that I'm not sure I understand. Mycelium?
Mycelium. That's what a morel is. You ever throw a piece of plywood on the ground and a week later lift it up and it's completely white?
Yeah.
That's mycelium. That's a mushroom. That's mushroom. The only reason why a mushroom pops is because That's the fruit of a mushroom.
If you really love these things like you do, and a lot of people across the state, if you had a greenhouse or something, can we grow these domestically? Can you set up something in your greenhouse to grow morels?
They do it now. They do it in different countries. I think there's Michigan State. I think the one guy had a grew them in trays. But what it is what they're doing is they're growing a mushroom. It's a different kind of mushroom. It's a morel, but they use a mushroom that they find at a burn area. For some reason, that kind of mushroom will grow that way. They can cultivate it to grow.
So anytime now, they're going to start to pop. How long is the season? Like from the beginning of the bottom tier of counties at the southern part of the state to the top of the UP, what is it, a month season, a 6-week season? How long does it last?
It'll probably go longer than that. I mean, it'll probably go, you can get from the time southern, you can go from April to June, and then you can go follow it all the way up into the UP into July.
Really?
You can start in Georgia in February and work all the southern states all the way up into Michigan, into Canada, all the way to Alaska if you wanted to.
So morels are not just unique to us here in the Great Lakes. They're everywhere.
They're everywhere. All 50 states they've been found on. Hawaii, Alaska, Florida, the upper part of Florida.
You ever travel out of state to look for them, Clay?
Indiana. I mean, I'm in Indiana all the time, so I'd be driving along and go, well, there's an elm, and then kind of stop and go look.
So people talk about, say, Mother's Day weekend being the perfect time, but I don't know. If you waited till Mother's Day, you're missing part of the season, aren't you?
Right, and it's true. Mother's Day weekend is perfect. Whenever Mother's Day weekend, I'd always go up north, Jordan River Valley, every year. Mother's Day weekend, you either get to get the blacks or you're going to get the whites. It just depends on what the weather's doing. But, yeah, exactly. If you don't start looking in April, you missed all the blacks in the southern part of the state, and then you're just starting to get into the whites by the time, Mother's Day.
Well, as you said earlier, turkey season, that early turkey season coincides pretty well with looking for mushrooms as well.
Exactly. Always bring it back with you when you're turkey hunting.
There you go.
You never know when you're going to stumble across a bunch of them.
Or in my case, walk through them and knock them all down. Clay, always a pleasure. I'll send people to your Facebook page, the Michigan Morels Facebook page. It's like the definitive source for information and when they're popping and watch them through the season. And you got more than 50,000 people following you, Clay, so you're doing something right.
Yeah, I think the page is 14 years old now.
Is it really?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, you're doing a good job with it. Check them out, Facebook.com/Michigan Morels. Clay Edney is the Michigan Morel Master. Clay, always a pleasure to talk with you. Have a great season, and we'll talk again.
All right, thanks a lot, Mike.
You bet. Clay Edney, the Michigan's Morel Master, and his Facebook page, Michigan Morels on Facebook. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, Gary Whelan of the DNR talking about fish kills. If you see a fish kill this time of year, obviously when you see dead fish, you're thinking, what chemicals get in there? I mean, what happened? But sometimes Mother Nature does that. We'll talk to him about that. And then this week's Ask Avery segment. And coming up in hour number 3, Kris Derson of Rapid River Knives and Wild Game Chef Dave Minar. All coming up this week right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Port Huron, WPHM 1380 AM. You can hear us in Escanaba on WCHT 600 AM 95.3 FM. And you can hear us in Manistee on WMLQ 97.7 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Michigan-based Boning, a leader in the archery industry for more than 76 years. As you head to the Turkey Woods, I'll rephrase, as I head to the Turkey Woods this spring, I will have Boning products on my bow, on my crossbow this time around. I hunted with a recurve last year using a crossbow this year, and in both cases, I was using Boning products. I tell you, 76 years, they continue to innovate, come up with new products, new manufacturing processes to make products for target archers and bow hunters. Just a jewel in the archery industry, and they're based right here in Michigan. Check them out online at boning.com, Bohning, boning.com. While you're online, head on over to michigan.gov/DNR, of course, the website of the Michigan DNR. You could spend all day trying to go through everything on that website, and you wouldn't do it. A wealth of information, michigan.gov/DNR. Gary Whelan of the DNR with us this time around. Gary, welcome back. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Appreciate you having me this morning.
Always a pleasure. Gary, remind me, you're a fisheries biologist, right?
I am. I'm the program manager. I oversee research and fish health and parts of our habitat management program.
Let me ask you this then. As a kid, and it's a little bit off topic, and I apologize, but as a kid, I feel like every kid who loves to fish has this dream of becoming maybe a fisheries biologist. How did you get to where you're at today?
Well, I was probably one of the few who always wanted to do this, so quite true according to your depiction there. I was the oddball in the back of the classroom that was reading Sports Afield and Field and Stream, while others were thinking about lots of other things. I wandered off to school far away from where I was from, originally from New Jersey. I did my undergraduate work in Wyoming and then went to Missouri. I did my graduate work. I always wanted to be a fish biologist and never knew what that was. And didn't know exactly what they did until I got into the profession. And indeed, it is my passion. So it is what I like to do.
That's wonderful. I love hearing these stories about how successful people got to where they are today. The topic of today's discussion, though, Gary, when we get a fish kill, when we see dead fish, it raises alarm bells with most people because we're thinking, a chemical got in there, some oil got in there, and there's something wrong. But I know you're going to tell me that's not necessarily the case, right? Mother Nature sometimes does such things.
That's right. And in certain times of the year, in this time in particular, when the ice comes off of these lakes, a lot of times you start seeing dead fish or dead amphibians, too, for that matter. Could also show up, like frogs and salamanders. And what the cause of this is deep ice with snow cover stops sunlight from coming in, and ultimately the plants stop photosynthesizing, they stop growing, and they start decaying. And as they decay, they use up oxygen. And as they use up oxygen, of course, that's what fish and other aquatic organisms require, and that causes what we call winter kill. Typically, you see it in shallow lakes. That's the normal place, or in canals that are offshoots of larger water bodies. And frequently, it is because of excessive plant growth. That's because of probably too many nutrients coming into the system. So again, a way to control some of that is by preventing some of those nutrients or reducing that vegetation growth. But it is very, very common this time of the year. And lots of people will start to see these. We get lots of reports of them, which we appreciate. You can always make those reports on our website in the Eyes in the Field area. There's a place there for fish kills, and we do investigate every one of them that we get. Some we know are just winter kills. But where there are kills with fish with lesions or unusual bloody patches, those could be pathogens, but they're not all that common this time of the year. And we do occasionally get them, but they're not super common. The other thing is that heavily urbanized areas that have stormwater retention ponds, we sometimes see kills in those, and they could also be from a combination of low dissolved oxygen and whatever's running into the pond. So if you start seeing sheens on the water, or you see an unusual water color, or you see fish species that aren't the ones you normally see on an annual basis dying, those are the ones that we would also like to hear about so that we could take additional action.
So you don't mind hearing from people who are reporting something and you follow up and, okay, it's natural. It's okay for us to reach out to you guys and let you know.
Yep, because it's an indication of lakes that may be having excessive nutrients. so that we can work with Eagle to see if there's ways that we can reduce that nutrient flow and reduce the vegetation a bit in the lakes, because that's what ultimately is causing the issue, is excessive vegetation growth.
All right,
that's
Gary.
what's dying under the ice and snow.
I appreciate you bringing us up to speed on that, and thanks for telling us a little bit of your background as well, and I'll look forward to talking with you again soon.
I look forward, and I appreciate you having me as always, Mike.
All right, Gary Whelan, fisheries biologist for the DNR, michigan.gov/DNR. As I say, go to that website, and that's also where you would report seeing a fish kill, as Gary talked about, michigan.gov/DNR. Poke around that website. There's all kinds of information all over the place, michigan.gov/DNR. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. No music, Pat? Are we doing it? Good? Okay, it is there. Okay, I was off a little bit. I was just double checking here. Yeah. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, this week's Ask Avery segment. Now, I'm waiting for a couple of answers from DNR biologists, so I might go a little off skew, a little sideways here on this week's Ask Avery segment, so we'll see where this goes. I'll check my email, see if those answers are in yet. And then in hour number 3, I haven't heard back yet, but I think Chris Derson of Rapid River Knives will be joining us, and I know wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Minar will be. That's coming up yet here in hour number 2, and then coming up in hour 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Houghton Lake on the Twister 92.1 WTWS. You can hear us in Holland on WHTC, Holland, Michigan, that is. WHTC 1450 AM, 99.7 FM. And actually, you can hear us in the country of Holland if you listen to the podcast, too. And you can hear us in Muskegon on WKBZ, that's 1090 AM. The Ask Avery segment is brought to you each week by Security Credit Union. Security Credit Union, one of Michigan's fastest growing credit unions, by the way, loves to work with outdoorsmen and women, and they can help you with your next outdoor adventure. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. The way this segment works, is this is your chance to get involved in the content of the show. You can ask questions that you'd like me to answer, or something you want me to forward on to, say, somebody in the DNR or something like that. And the best way to get those to me, if you would please, is to send me an email, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. I've had people send them to me in social media messaging, and that's fine, but that seems to get so cluttered up and convoluted, and sometimes they get misplaced and lost, or I don't look at them. But I'm always looking at email, so I would encourage you to send me an email, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. By the way, that's the email address for any comments, questions, concerns, criticisms, whatever about the show. That is my email address for everything, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. Now, I'm waiting on a couple of responses, very specific responses that people have sent me regarding hunting and fishing questions that I have forwarded on to the DNR. I haven't heard back yet. Now, and that's not a complaint. Usually when I reach out, the department, the people that I talk to in the department are very responsive, but I just haven't heard back yet. So I'm gonna fall back on a more generic question for this week, and it's not something I can attribute to any specific person because I haven't pulled it up yet. But I've had quite a few people ask me about this. They say, Avery, how do you decide who you're working with on the show? And I don't mean how do you decide what guests are going to be on the show, but let me branch off in that area first. There is a valid criticism of the show that I tend to talk to the same people quite often, and I accept that. That is a legitimate criticism, and I will accept that. I tend to go back to my friends, to the people that I've known for a long time, the people who are great talkers, the people who are good conversationalists, the people who are experts and don't mind sharing their information. Yes, I will go back to a person like that over and over. Yeah, absolutely. But I'm always looking for new people. And I'll think, for example, John Durka, I had him on a couple of weeks ago. He's the underwater spearfishing expert who changed the spearfishing laws of Michigan. And man, if I can find somebody like that, you can bet I will go to them. Clay Edney, who I had on here recently, earlier in the show, talking about Michigan morels. Yeah, I'll go back to him once every year, this time of year, talking about it. But I'm always looking for new people. So if you have a suggestion, please do not hesitate. Send me an email, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com, and say, hey, I think you should talk to this person. Jack Ford, the fly fishing guru who was on with us a few weeks ago, that was a suggestion. I didn't know Jack. I knew of Jack. I knew he was, of his status. But somebody said, hey, why don't you have him on? So don't hesitate to do that. I am more than happy to talk to as many people on the show here as I can. Now, regarding companies that I work with, people say, there are companies out there that are doing good things that I haven't heard you talk about, Avery. Again, another very valid observation. I tend to like to work with and promote Michigan companies. That's kind of a sweet spot. I don't pretend to be a national show. I am a Michigan show, so I like to focus and promote Michigan-based companies, Michigan-based activities, Michigan-based people as much as possible. So, for example, I had Mike King of Michigan-based Brenton Arms on earlier. I would not be as likely to feature or talk about a Wisconsin-based gun maker or an Illinois-based gun maker. In fact, when I found out that Brenton was a Michigan-based company, I reached out to them. It's like, yeah, I would love to talk to them and now work with them and let people know that they're out there. If I have, say, a relationship with somebody like Jay's Sporting Goods, man, I've worked with the folks at Jay's forever. They were the company that allowed me to get started. They were the company that encouraged me and kicked me in the rear and said, you can do this, go do it. So I have a real loyalty to a company like that. So I probably wouldn't be as likely to reach out and feature direct competitors of Jay's, although I often do talk to other retailers and such about specific products. But that's kind of a lane that I wouldn't want to step on anybody's toes, just out of respect for those folks. But I'm always open. I mean, if there's somebody you want to hear me talk to, if there's a topic you would like to see me discuss, please do not hesitate to reach out. Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com, Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. And thank you to the folks at Security Credit Union for making each week's Ask Avery segment possible. Their website, securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. We'll take a break for the top of the hour. Speaking of Michigan companies, Kris Derson of Rapid River Knives. I mean, talking about knives is a wonderful topic. I got a knife in my pocket right now. You probably do as well. Why not have that conversation with a Michigan-based knife maker, Kris Derson of Rapid River? And, of course, we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Minar. That's coming up in hour 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polar Craft Boats, the Forward Corporation, Primal Tree Stands, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, Brenton USA Hunting Rifles, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Indeed, this is the big guy, Mike Avery. And Ken Hunter, thank you for that introduction. Ken has been the voice of the introduction of Outdoor Magazine for many, many years, and I appreciate that updated version of the show open. Thank you very much. Oh, it is the month of April now, as you are hearing this show, a time when, I don't know, we should be thinking about springtime, right? And depending on where you are in the state, that may or may not be the case. I want to talk now with a buddy of mine. His name is Kris Derson of Rapid River Knives. And as I was thinking about this, I actually pulled the Rapid River knife out of my pocket. I have one of their Rapid River full. In fact, you heard it right there. Listen to this. That is a sound of quality, my friends. You know when you hear that knife is very well made. RapidRiverKnifeWorks.com is the website. You can visit their showroom just outside of Rapid River. Kris Derson is the man behind it. Now, listen, as we are recording this show, weather conditions in the UP are terrible. So we're going to do our best with this connection, so please bear with us. Kris, welcome back to the show. How are you?
I'm great, Mike. How are you?
I'm better than you because all we're getting down here right now as we're recording this show is a rain. You've got something more, don't you?
We had an entire night full of rain and extremely rain for March, and now it's a complete whiteout blizzard. So
oh, is it really? Wow.
We have our hands full. Yeah.
Well,
yeah,
hopefully,
we absolutely have our hands full, but
listen,
it's working. I mean, I've got Generac backup power system, so
yeah.
Hopefully that keeps running.
How was your winter in the UP this year, Kris?
I thought it was, I remember back when I was younger as a kid, winters used to be a lot longer, a lot colder than the last, I would say, 10. Now this year, on the other hand, was a winter kind of like that. It was very long, drawn out, cold. I think we had 27 days in a row where it didn't hit takes. So, and a lot of snow this winter. So I'm done plowing snow. I'm done doing all that. Whatever we get now is what we get. And, it's just going to sit there until it, other than at the factory store, no more snow plowing for this guy.
I don't blame you. Hey, is it to the point, do you think it had a negative effect on the UP deer herd this year?
In our area, we have, it's hard to say. So, I mean, I've been to areas where I've seen the deer looking very rough. Extremely rough. With that deep, heavy snow that does allow the wolves to move in and puts the whitetail at a disadvantage when they're trying to run them, from any counter. But this my area this year we had so much snow that the wolves kind of moved in, and we're killing healthy deer. So it's going to be 50-50 shot right now. Most of the deer. The next 3-4 weeks is going to be really, really important.
Healthy deer. Last time we had you, last fall we had you on the show for in the same day shooting a very healthy deer and a very healthy black bear, if I remember right, in the same day. And then I had you followed up on that. Yeah. You went on a hunt of a lifetime out west and killed a giant mountain lion. I mean, you're a hardcore hunter, Kris.
Yeah, I love it. I live for it. It's my profession. It's in my blood. It's what I do. In fact, the Morning Crockett sending 2 scores up here tomorrow. Actually, tomorrow. This Friday. So when everybody hears this, the cat will already been scored. To find out whether or not it's a new world record cat.
Oh, my goodness. I knew from the early indications it was probably going to be top 5 for sure, but you're saying it's actually at this point, before being scored, it's in the running for a world record?
It's in the running, right? Yeah. So the old record, I believe, has stood for since 1969. It was killed in British Columbia. Now, Mike, and that was, I believe, 16 and 14, 16. You know how they use the odd. They use a similar scoring method as they would to score a black bear. They don't say 16 and 7/8. It's 16 and 14 16.
Yeah.
So currently, right now, my cat is over 16 inches. But we don't really know. We know it's low, so it's going to come down to it's down to a less between a quarter and an eighth of an inch, or less.
Wow.
It's real hard to tell.
Wouldn't that be something? Wouldn't that be something to see your name next to a world record?
Yeah, just crazy. Hard to wrap your mind around something like that.
Yeah,
I just went out there on a cat hunt, and then to come back with even just a Boone and Crockett animal. This animal was totally unexpected, obviously, and I mean you're roaming around the mountains of biking cats. You don't expect to find, especially even a top 10 cat in the world. It's not something that crosses your mind. So it's exciting. It's fun. Boone and Crockett's excited about it, and it's a little talk in the big cat world. So
if it comes, well, let me know when you get it scored. Let me know so I can let our listeners know. Okay, Kris.
No, I absolutely will.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I'm thinking about your background as a kid growing up as a hardcore outdoorsman, as a hunter all your life. Was it that love for hunting? Is that how you ended up where you are today? Was it the fact that you're a hunter that got you making knives for a living?
It actually is, and I wanted to do something. I wanted to use my degree, I guess. So I went to Lake Superior State University and got a degree in robotical engineering. And I thought, well, all right, at the time, my only options really are start something in the outdoor industry or go and, work at the time, the only robots were essentially, I believe, in the auto industry in the Lower Peninsula. We had a few scattered here and there in the UP, but it was just a fascinating thing to robotics at the time. I mean, it was a new technology, and so that's what I got my degree in. And then I decided, I want to live in the UP. I want to live in the UP and stay where I'm at. So I'm gonna start a knife company. And both of my parents, after I got my degree, a bachelor's degree in engineering, I told them I was going to start a knife company in my garage. They both told me I was crazy.
Well, and it's interesting. I find it interesting that your background is in robotics, and yet the knives you guys are making today, they're not made by robots, are they?
No, they're not. They're all 100% handmade. The robotics degree was, obviously geared directly at robotics, but there was a lot of engineering involved, and even with our knives being handmade, there is a lot of engineering that goes into making a knife. And a lot of that's just on paper, from concept to prototype to the finished product. There's a lot of steps that go into it. So I can say it was helpful. I mean, knowing what you're doing on a paper and drawing things to scale, and then actually being able to create a prototype of someone's idea. We get that a lot. People come into the knife shop and they say, "Hey, I've got this in my head, but I don't know how to say it, or I don't know how to draw it, or So the degree that helped a little bit. It's funny. Robotics to knives robotics to handmade knives is kind of ironic.
I think so too. Hang tight, Kris. We got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. We're talking with Kris Derson of Rapid River Knives. The website rapidriverknifeworks.com. rapidriverknifeworks.com. I would encourage you to swing by the Rapid River showroom, Rapid River Knife Works showroom, just outside of Rapid River. I have one. I bought several of them for Christmas presents. Everybody we gave them to just absolutely loved them. Go to the website, rapidriverknifeworks.com. If you go to my Facebook page, too, by the way, and scroll down. Just click on the video tab or the live tab and scroll down. You can see a Wednesday night live that I did at Rapid River Knife Works last fall. Nick Grillo of Michigan Brand Meats was along with us, so get a better feel for their operation. RapidRiverKnifeWorks.com. Again, I'm holding mine in my hand right now. It desperately needs to be sharpened. I let it get dull on me. I got to ask Kris how to take care of that. Short of going to Rapid River and having those guys do it. That and lots more coming up after the break with Kris Derson of Rapid River Knife Works right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show on more than 30 stations across the great state of Michigan, including News 97.98, 98.7 WLDN in Ludington. You can hear us in Sandusky on WMIC, 660 AM, 95.3 FM. And you can hear us in Tawas on WIOS, AM and FM, 1480 AM, 106.9 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Brenton USA Hunting Rifles, AR-style, highly accurate, tough and dependable hunting rifles that could change the way you hunt. They're made here in Michigan. I would strongly encourage you to check them out. I hadn't thought of an AR as a viable hunting rifle. I thought of them as more of a self-defense type gun. But the folks at Brenton USA are changing that, and the fact that they're built here in Michigan means a lot to me. Check them out online at BrentonUSA.com, BrentonUSA.com, made just down the street from the governor's office. How cool is that? You know I love Michigan-made companies, Michigan-based companies, including Rapid River Knife Works, RapidRiverKnifeWorks. Well, Kris Duerson is with us. Kris, I got a question for you real quick. You still with me?
Yes.
Okay. In the past, I had typed in RapidRiverKnifeWorks.com, and it took me to the website. Is that still the case, or does it have to be .us?
It can be .com, .us,
okay.
Knowing every dot.
Dot whatever. Just tap Rapid River Knife Works, and we'll find you guys.
Yeah, that's just a search engine thing. That
I got you.
Helps people find it easier. That's all it is.
All right, so let's talk about knives. I don't think there is a more valuable tool that somebody can carry with them on a day-to-day basis than a good knife. I mean, you can carry them almost anywhere. I find myself reaching for my Rapid River knife probably a half dozen times a day, Kris.
Oh, absolutely. The knife is, once you carry one for any length, and you realize, how often you use them. In fact, I was just in Florida, and I knew that, I'm going to be opening bags and this and that kind of, with my two younger sons, they're going to have all kinds of things that need to be cut open. The last time I'd flown, I had a pocket knife taken away from me because I just forgot. It was in my pocket.
Yep.
And so I put it in my luggage, and then when I got to Florida this year, I had a pocket knife with me the whole time. And it is something you use literally every day, depending on what you're doing, sometimes a couple dozen times, and you don't even think about it. It's second nature. Where's my pocket knife?
Yeah.
You use it, and you put it back in your pocket, so...
I will admit, Kris, I reached for mine the other day with the intent of using it as a screwdriver, and your voice came in my head and said, "Don't do it, Avery."
You know what, Mike? We can fix almost anything, but I can't put back a quarter inch off the tip of a knife if you break it off. So no, you can use them for almost anything, but screwdrivers aren't something that I'd recommend.
Yeah. And, we're talking right now, I am at least, about a pocket knife, a foldable knife, which is my go-to. I have it all the time. I have a wonderful knife from you guys that I absolutely love. But there's also skinning knives. There's, especially this time of year, fillet knives. I mean, kitchen knives. There's a knife for... one knife is not a perfect solution for every situation, is it?
No, not at all. That's why we have so many different models. I started the company actually 20 years ago this year. And I started with 4 designs, and I started thinking about what 4 designs would cover the most situations. And one of them was our fin and feather, which is a upland game, small, roughly 2.5-inch blade, real thin, waterfowl, upland game, small game, that type of thing. And some people just don't like a big knife. I don't like a really big knife because I think it gets in the way. And then we also made a fillet knife, our skinner, and our drop point, and that was going to cover all four things that we needed, right? Well, 20 years later, we have 30 models, and that's got a lot to do with customer feedback. Customers coming into the store and hearing their request over and over and over again. Hey, I'd love to see a knife like this or a knife like that. Can you make this or that? And I'm not sure if you're familiar with our beaver tail knife.
No.
The knife it's sharp all the way around the tip. It's got a round edge. It looks like a big butter knife. But I had people coming into the store almost on a weekly basis saying, "Hey, Grandpa used to have a knife. I can't." There, people would say, "I can't describe it, but I'll draw it." So they draw this goofy little knife that would, and I would just take the pen and I'd finish the picture for them. And then they'd go, "How did you know?" So I'd heard about this knife so much that I started doing research into it, and it says that basically the trappers and the commercial fishermen fight over who designed this knife, which is it's over 100-year-old design, and it's sharpened all the way around. It's the edge of the knife on the front round. So you think, well, that sounds a little dangerous, but when you think about it, when you're skinning, that gives you a tremendous skinning radius. And then the guys, the commercial fishermen, you called it a fish scoop. So they'd run the blade up the belly, turn it sideways, and the fish guts out.
Yeah.
So that's how a lot of these designs come out of necessity and customer feedback and what people want to see. You mentioned fillet knives earlier. Fillet knives are probably the most difficult knife to make to where you're going to make somebody happy about it.
Why? Why is that?
Every fisherman I know wants a blade that's a certain length, a certain thickness, with certain flex to it. It's very difficult. I think we're up to 7 different fillet knife models now to try to get them all, to try to get everybody.
Wow.
And some of it's fish specific, like if you're doing a big salmon, you're not going to be using our 5-inch panfish fillet. So we make a 13-inch salmon fillet that looks like Eddie, but it's a big offshore knife. So, but yeah, the fillet knives are the most difficult. Just because once I think a guy has filleted 1,000 fish, he's got his own process down, the flexibility, everything's got to be. And if it's not, then they're not interested. So that's just a lot of our designs as well. Just what people are used to.
Design obviously is important, but I gotta believe that the quality of the steel is key. It's critical. Are all of your knives, Kris, made from the same steel, or do you use different types for different applications?
Different types for different applications. So all of our fillet knives, all of our kitchen cutlery, and our pocket knives are all made from 154 CM, which is a high carbon yet stain resistant steel, with the idea that this stuff's going to be wet all the time. it's going to get used a lot. It's going to be in the sink all the time. So, you're getting washed and laying on a fillet board somewhere, or, kitchen knives, especially, and the steak knives, that type of thing. A lot of it's used, so we're going to steal for that. Skinners, drop points, our big game knives are, when you're taking down an animal, as far as boning it and getting it, you have to have a stronger steel that has a little bit better edge retention, and it'll take a more of a beating as far as hitting a bone, or it's a heavier use knife. So that's when our tools come in, which we use primarily D2. We use some A2 and some 52-100, which is actually a very popular steel to make ball bearings out of. So it's really hard, really good all the way around.
Hey, Kris, I got to ask you, like everything in the world these days is hard to get. Is the supply chain issues that I'm sick of hearing about. But what about steel? Can you get steel?
Oh, you can get steel. I think steel's gone up 12% since last Wednesday. So the steel, yeah. So if I get
don't laugh, Avery. It's not funny. I get it.
If I'd hate to be a gun safe manufacturer right now. Oh. I mean, the prices are changing so fast. Obviously everything's driven by the cost of oil. So it's something that you got to stay on top of, and really keep an eye on what's happening in the world, because steel prices change daily.
Kris, yeah. I know we've got a little bit of a squirrely connection, but I would like to keep you on. I have a few more questions for you. Can I offer you the coveted third segment? Can you give me a few more minutes?
Absolutely.
I think I heard him say absolutely. Even if he didn't, Pat, I heard him say absolutely. Yeah. All right, hang tight, Kris. We're talking with Kris Derson of Rapid River Knives, their website, rapidriverknifeworks.us, to be sure, rapidriverknifeworks.us. The reason that Kris we've got a kind of a bad signal is, as we are talking to Kris right now, recording this week's show, they just went through a massive ice storm and now a late season blizzard in the UP. So weather conditions, as of the time of this recording, are less than wonderful. But Kris is able to make a connection with us, and I do want to stay with him because I got questions about sharpening a knife. Because I don't care what the design is, you can have the most beautiful, pretty, and functional knife design, but if you don't have a good edge on it, it doesn't do you any good. I've never been able to put a good edge on a knife. My dad was a master at it, but he wasn't able to teach me. Well, we're going to talk with another master, Kris Derson of Rapid River Knife Works, rapidriverknifeworks.us, about the finer points of sharpening a knife after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show on more than 30 stations across the great state of Michigan, including WTIQ in Manistee, 1490 AM, 95.3 FM, and downstate in Saginaw, WSGW AM and FM, 790 AM, 100.5 FM. I am in the studios of WSGW right now, but for this 3 hours, we call this corner of the building the Outdoor Magazine studio. In here with Pat Johnston, doing a wonderful job as always. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Reader Landscaping. Reader can take care of your lawn and property because it's your nature and our nurture. Let Reader create an outdoor getaway in your backyard. Check them out online at readerlandscaping.com. That's readerlandscaping.com. And if you have a project in your mind for this summer, don't wait. Get in touch with the folks at Reader now. You might think there's a little bit of a lull, but they're getting ready. Their trucks are getting fired up. Their guys are getting ready to go. They want to get busy, and as soon as Mother Nature allows, they will, and you want to be on the schedule. ReaderLandscaping.com. While you're online, head on over to RapidRiverKnifeWorks.us, RapidRiverKnifeWorks.us, of course, the website of Rapid River Knives. Kris Derson, the man behind Rapid River. Did we still have you, Kris?
Here.
Okay. And I'll say it once again for folks who are saying, what's this? As we are talking right now with Kris, a huge ice storm and then a blizzard in the UP right now. So I'm just fortunate to be able to talk to him at all. All right, Kris, I got a question for you. I may have been guilty of cutting something with my knife that I shouldn't have, and I dulled it. And I don't like to do that. I like a sharp knife. Now, short of coming back up to see you guys and have you put another edge on it, which I know you will do, how does a person sharpen a knife at their own house?
Well, the important thing that you can do, obviously, is don't cut things that you're not supposed to. Right, Mike?
I know.
But when you know you've done something like that, the first thing I like to do is take that knife to a leather strap. Strap it on a belt, a leather belt. Denim even works. So what happens when you dull a knife? It's important to know this. It may sound crazy and a little more in depth than you were thinking about, but so the edge of your knife or your axe or whatever you're using is full of microscopic pockets that you can't see. So when you hear of people saying, "Oh, my knife's got a big burr on it," or "It's got a rough edge," type of thing, that's from heavy use or hitting something that you didn't mean to hit. And it breaks open one of those microscopic air pockets in the steel that creates a little burr on the edge. So at that point, you're tearing instead of cutting. So right away, people assume my knife is dull and I need to resharpen it. So they make the mistake of going right to a whetstone or something that they don't have any idea how to use, and they start grinding away on it. Well, the first thing you want to do is strap that knife back and forth on the piece of leather. I still use just an old belt. An old belt's perfectly fine. Strap it back and forth on the leather, and you want to break that microscopic burr off the edge of the blade. Once you break that off, you're right back to that original edge that you had on the knife when you got it from our factory.
Okay, on this belt then, are we pushing it blade first, like we're trying to cut into it, or are we pulling the blade? Are we pulling away from the blade? The edge.
So you lay it down with the edge towards you and push away.
Gotcha.
And then you turn it away from you and pull back at you and and snap up at an angle.
Okay.
Fast, just like the barbers used to do on the straps all the time with their straight razors. Can you imagine sitting in a barber's chair and having him grab a whetstone out and start grinding away on a straight razor? On a whetstone, I think he'd probably get up and run away. So now, you need to the number one thing you need to do, which is very difficult, and that's why knife sharpening is so it's an art. It really is an art. You need to maintain same angle on both sides of the blade as you're sharpening it. So I recommend, if you are using a whetstone, make maybe 2 or 3 swipes on one side of the knife, and then try to match that same angle 2 or 3 swipes on the other side of the knife. If you don't, what you're doing is you're rolling your edge over. You're turning it in one direction or the other, which at that point, if you go too far, it's going to need to be reground by somebody that has the right equipment. Wow. We hand grind. We do all ours by hand, but if you do go too far with it, you're gonna essentially roll your edge right over, and you're not going to be happy with it. And that goes from a fillet knife to a pack axe, anything. the number one thing that needs to be done is, let's say you field dress a deer, strop that knife 40 or 50 times and get those little microscopic burrs off the edge. Same thing with a fillet knife. You do half a dozen fish, it only takes 30 seconds to strop it.
All right. Good advice, Chris. So listen, hey, Chris, we're out of time. I apologize for that. RapidRiverKnifeWorks.us, lifetime guarantee. And if you do need your edge done, you can bring the knife in and they'll do it for you. Always a pleasure, Chris. We'll let you go. Hang tight with the weather. RapidRiverKnifeWorks.us, RapidRiverKnifeWorks.us. We'll take a break. Chef Dave Minar coming up right here on Outdoor Magazine. You know that music. That's the Outdoor Magazine music. It's been around for a long, long time. I mean, why not? I've been around for a long, long time. and our next guest has been around for a long, long time, too. Wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Minar. David, welcome back. How are you?
Shouldn't make fun of your elders.
I know. As that was coming out of my mouth, I thought, oh, that sounds really rude. But you know I don't mean it that way.
Old Dixie Dave.
Old Dave. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Jeez.
So anyway, buddy, how are you?
Pretty darn good, Michael.
Good.
And
good.
yourself?
I'm doing real good. Listen, how are plans coming on that big dinner that you're doing with the folks in, Bridgeport?
Bridgeport Gun Club,
Yeah.
right. There's some tickets left, not many. It's April 23rd, and it's at the Bridgeport Gun Club, and I got a couple phone numbers here, 989-777-9146 or 989-341-0645. And call if you're going to go. Get tickets, $50 a person, and that's my last plug.
Well, if they have half of a wonderful event as we had at Trinity that you catered for us, it'll be a big success.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it, too. So, anyway, I've got a smoked salmon and shrimp Alfredo.
Ooh, perfect.
Sell at the restaurant by the lots. Let's just say lots. So, this is going to be for 4 portions. You can cut this down if you like for 2 or so. You need about 1/4 to 1/2 pound of boneless, skinless smoked salmon, and you want to break that up into smaller pieces, not too little, not like shredded. And then you need about 6 tailless shrimp, or as many as you like per person. Take the tails off, and it's a lot easier for the diners to enjoy it. You need about a medium onion diced up, pretty darn fine, more or less to your flavor. Same thing with garlic cloves, chopped up real fine. Maybe 4 to 6, depending on how garlicky you like this. A couple ounces of dry white wine, which is kind of an option. We use it at the restaurant. You're going to need about 3/4 of a quart of half and half, and about 1/2 to 3/4 of a stick of fresh butter. And 1 pound of cooked fettuccine al dente, because it's going to cook a little bit more as you're making this dish. So don't overcook this. You need about 1 cup of Parmesan cheese grated, a couple tablespoons of fresh chopped parsley, and ground pepper to top this off with some more Parmesan. So with a little bit of olive oil in the pan, you want to saute the onions and garlic for just slowly, not too fast, not too hard, about 2 to 3 minutes. And if you're going to use the wine, add the wine. Turn up the heat, reduce that down. That's going to give a little tartness to this, so I like to use it, but it's up to you. And then you want to add the half and half. When it comes back up to a boil, add your crumbled bacon and shrimp. Cook it just like a minute or so, because there's going to be more cooking involved. You don't want to overcook the shrimp. And so when you can add the pasta after you cook the shrimp about a minute or so. Bring it up to a boil, then reduce the heat, stirring most all of the time. You want to add Parmesan at the very end, Save some to top it with, but this is going to be the thickener, that's going to make it nice and rich and creamy. You don't want to get it too thick because it's going to actually set up once you plate this. So when it looks a little thick, about the consistency of maple syrup, that's when you want to start to serve this. So take a pair of tongs and adjust all of the pasta on the plates and make sure everybody gets the same amount of shrimp or however you want to do it. And you can top this with Parmesan. Fresh grated pepper is just lovely for this dish, and some parsley. It is killer. If you want to come and have it in person, we sell it every day at the restaurant.
At Oscar and Joey's restaurant.
Yeah.
Oscar and Joey's Roadhouse.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right in the corner of Birch Run Road and Dixie Highway, exit 136, in beautiful Birch Run.
Beautiful. Hey, you were talking about, cooking fish and making sure that it's the right, I'll use the word doneness, but doesn't fish continue to cook, and maybe some other things, once you take them off the stove, don't they cook for a little bit longer anyway?
Oh, yeah. See, if you were making a prime rib, you want it nice and rare to medium rare. You take it out at 95 to 100 degrees in the center, and you let it set a while. Got to set at least 15 or 20 minutes before you carve up a prime rib, because it's going to continue cooking. The juices have to realign. Same thing if you're barbecuing, say venison steaks, or you pan-searing venison steaks. If you're going to have it rare, you take it out kind of right away, and it's going to continue cooking for a little while. And then by the time you put the meat back in, the sauce that you're making for just enough to warm it up, also the same thing, it's going to continue cooking. Fish on a barbecue. Man, I can't tell you enough if you're going to do salmon, you want to make sure that it's like medium well. By the time you serve it in a few minutes, it's going to be well done and just perfect. Walleye is another one. If you're pan-searing walleye, flour, egg, brown it on one side, turn it over, and make your sauce. And you're only going to cook it a couple minutes more, because by the time you get both sides seared on a thinner fillet, it's almost done.
Gotcha.
So you don't want to overdo it.
All right, my friend, I appreciate it. Great advice from wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Minar, a big part of the Outdoor Magazine show, as are you, because if you weren't listening, there'd be no reason to do this show. My email address, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. Do not hesitate to reach out to me. My website, mikeaveryoutdoors.com. Don't forget about the Wednesday night lives. Don't forget about the Primal hunting giveaway. What else? Lots more. I'll talk to you next time right here on Outdoor Magazine.